My parents insisted my sisters and I be identical in every way. Clothes, hair, even our bodies. They arranged surgery to make it happen, but we were saved at the last moment. Imagine your parents wanting you to be identical to your siblings. Not just in clothes but in every single way. Now imagine finding out they'd been planning surgery to make sure your bodies matched, and you're lying there half sedated on a gurney at the airport, realizing your own mother just injected you with something to keep you from escaping. This isn't a horror movie. This is my story. I was 7 and my younger sister Iris was 3 when my parents made us match. And by match, I mean everything. Despite our different ages and statures, we had identical weights, ruler-measured haircuts. Every morning Mom would line us up. If a single strand of hair was even slightly longer, she'd chop it right there. Puberty, as you can imagine, made matching risky. When my sister Iris developed prematurely, Mom didn't comfort her. She made her wrap her chest in ace bandages. Then Mom gave all of us matching padded bras, even those of us who didn't need them. The scars from 3 weeks of hair dye chemicals burning our scalps were a constant reminder. Harlow, my other sister, had a naturally high voice, while mine and Beatrix deepened. Mom made her practice speaking lower until she lost her voice for a month. Teachers couldn't tell us apart. We couldn't correct them. I wanted to play soccer but Iris hated sports so we all quit. Harlow was a superb violinist but she quit that too because we were bad. We had to be the same. I started my period at 12 and hid it for 3 years until Iris did, stuffing toilet paper because pads showed uneven growth. I still regret bleeding through my clothes in class, pretending nothing was wrong. Our bodies just changed. Dad had Beatrix wear a back brace, forcing her to stoop until her spine actually cracked when she grew 6 inches in one summer. Harlow was naturally petite, so her shoes had huge lifts that inflamed her ankles. Then came the faces. Iris's nose was a little enlarged. Beatrice had robust cheeks. Mine were rounder than theirs. Our parents made us do face exercises, wear bone reshaping masks. I tried to flee at 17, making it to the bus terminal before they caught me. Their response? They installed outside-only locks on our bedroom doors. We had to check in every hour. Every single room had cameras. If we were in the bathroom too long, Mom would bang on the door, ranting about secret individuality. Homeschooling made sure we weren't influenced to be different. The sameness made me forget where I ended and my sisters began. They found a doctor who'd lost his American license but worked in Mexico. We were measured like animals as he discussed repairs. He'd reduce Beatrix's cheekbones, widen Harlow's nose, narrow Iris's, pin back my ears to match them. He'd even match our lips and hairlines. My parents paid $25,000 up front. Everything was booked for 3 weeks after my 17th birthday. A week before we were set to leave for Mexico, Iris attempted suicide. She swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills. She survived, but the hospital questioned the years-long binding scars on her chest. My parents lied, claiming body image difficulties caused self-harm. They said we all needed surgery to be happy. Our procedure was moved forward 4 days to avoid social workers investigating. Dad scolded us about Iris's selfishness, while Mom, calm and terrifying, packed. Everyone, we were told, knew we were going to a special camp. The airport van arrived at 5 a.m. That night, they gave us sleeping pills to stop fleeing. I pretended to swallow but spat mine out as Mom looked away. I lay awake, listening to my sister's heavy breathing. Surgery was in 13 hours. Mom, in her chillingly calm voice, revealed the ultimate plan. They'd eliminate ribs to fit our torsos and permanently alter our vocal cords to match our voices. The car came around 4:45 a.m. They carried my sedated sisters out one by one. I pretended to sleep, my body limp, as Dad lifted me. I thought he'd notice my loud heartbeat. He reached the van. I felt a sharp pain in my neck. Mom held a syringe, smiling. As my eyesight blurred, she whispered, "Did you really think we'd trust the pills alone? We've been planning this for years." The drugs hit fast. My body went completely slack as they piled me in with my sisters. I last saw the airport sign as we entered the highway. If the drugs didn't knock me out completely, we wouldn't wake up from those surgeries. My body went slack as Mom requested, but my intellect stayed awake, fighting the fog. I barely saw the dashboard lights and the gloomy road through my almost closed eyes. Mom, in the passenger seat, Practice telling airport staff we were going to a unique Mexican arts camp. Dad corrected her twice about where we were flying into and she yelled at him, "Get it right. One mistake might ruin everything." My sisters breathed slowly, heavily, sedated. The car smelled like Mom's vanilla air freshener and 3 days of hair dye. Counting exit signs helped me focus to avoid the drugs. Exit 8, 10, 12. My heart was racing. I feared the quiet van would hear it. Dad entered the airport exit ramp, and our headlights illuminated the huge blue airplane sign. This was it. The end. Unless the airport found for unconscious adolescent girls. Dad joined early morning travelers in the departure drop-off line, unloading baggage. I almost shivered when he opened the vehicle's sliding door. But I didn't move. A luggage trolley was rolled over. I stayed limp as he took me out and put me on the metal cart. He loaded Iris, Harlow, and Beatrix beside me. Mom zipped my pink hoodie and straightened Beatrix's hair. She tugged on Harlow's sleeve, complaining about how we had to look pretty now. People with rolling bags passed by. I barely opened my eyes. A perplexed businesswoman stared at us. A father with 2 children carried his luggage to the terminal door after staring. Nobody stopped. No one asked. They disregarded us like we were awkward luggage. Mom pushed the trolley through the terminal's automatic doors. Fluorescent lights sliced through my closed eyelids. The intense light made my eyes swim, but I couldn't blink. Announcements echoed from the high ceilings. Security. Unattended luggage. Cartwheels creaked on the smooth floor. Dad carried our 4 passports and a Mexico documentation folder. Each cart push made my head bounce, so I had to stay slack and breathe regularly. The terminal was mostly empty. An unopened coffee shop, a gift shop with a metal fence. Bright overhead lights hurt my eyes. Mom's shoes clicked quickly, showing anxiety. She sped the cart to the international check-in. The airline agent looked up from her computer. Young woman with a bun, probably 30. She stared at us, then back at her screen. She tilted her head. Her frown intensified as she typed. In a minute, an agent wearing a supervisor vest arrived. She'd been called. We watched as they talked quietly, and the supervisor pointed to a computer screen. Agent 1 nodded, then pointed to the trolley. Some hope flared in my chest. Someone noticed. Someone saw that 4 identical teenage girls were still. I saw the supervisor ask my dad as she approached us. This was my chance. Even though the drugs obscured my eyesight, I focused. The agent bent to check our breathing. I saw her face centimeters away. I found the strength to cry. A single tear rolled down my jaw. Jumping back, she grabbed the phone on the counter, terrified. To the supervisor, she pointed at my face and screamed something inaudible. The supervisor grabbed the phone. Her face changed. Mom spoke gently, but the agents ignored her. They called someone else. They looked at us with concern and alarm, not simply confusion. For minutes later, an airport policeman arrived. Fast. With his belt radio. He was tall, ebony, with kind eyes that looked at us before my parents. Williams, his name tag read. He asked my parents why 4 teens were unconscious at 5 a.m. Dad's steady voice began the practice story. Traveling made us nervous. Nervous flyers. He said Mom gave us resting pills for the long flight. His charming smile, the one that worked on teachers and doctors, usually made people trust him. Mom provided more details, sounding like the best mother, worried and loving. She mentioned our Mexico arts camp. She said we were ecstatic and sleepless for days. She said she gave us something moderate and safe to rest for the long trip. She discussed responsible parenting and our best interests. She sounded like hospital staff. Her voice, which worked on everyone, made her sound like a loving parent who wanted to save her daughters when Iris tried to die. I faced Officer Williams, crouched close to the cart. He gently took my hand, his warm skin against my cold fingers. He whispered, "If you can hear me, pinch my thumb." I summoned my drugged strength. I focused. I squeezed. It wasn't hard because Mom had injected something in my neck. His body froze. He looked at me. His grip on my hand tightened. He sensed it. He noticed I was awake. He realized the situation was dire. Williams stood immediately and removed his belt radio. He called EMS politely but firmly. My parents were told no plane would board unless medical staff cleared us. Within 3 minutes, 2 paramedics arrived. They tested my iris and pulse. The first paramedic pulled my eyelid and shined a light in my eye, then Harlow's. He informed his friend, "Their pupils are too constricted." A second paramedic's stethoscope showed our breathing was too shallow for normal sleep. They gazed at each other and Officer Williams in disdain. Mom's voice hardened. She claimed we were fine, that we would miss our flight. She said they were exaggerating. She kept discussing the camp, our tardiness, and its pointlessness. Dad put his hand on her arm to calm her, but I could see their perfect parenting crumbling as terror set in. Now Mom's lovely voice was harsh. Dad smiled tensely. As paramedics evaluated us and talked to Officer Williams, I could tell our parents were losing control for the first time in years. The first paramedic checked my pulse again. He felt my neck, right where Mom had inserted the needle. He froze, then carefully tilted my head to look closer. His companion instantly arrived and looked at the tiny red mark on my skin with blood. The first paramedic radioed his supervisor. The second checked iris. He found a neck mark in the same area. He found beatatrix after Harlow's. All 4 of us had fresh red injection sites. The radio buzzed with the supervisor's specific request. The first paramedic mentioned multiple minors on coerced sedation and possibly non-voluntary medication. He told Officer Williams, "This doesn't look like anxiety medication given by a parent. This looks like someone deliberately drugging kids who didn't want to be drugged." Williams scrolled in his notebook. His jaw tensed. He asked Dad to verify our IDs near the check-in counter. Dad was astonished but followed Williams a few steps away while another officer approached Mom. Williams asked Dad about our vacation plan. "We went where in Mexico? Which city? How was the institution named?" Dad replied quickly that we were going to a Tijuana camp. Williams took notes, then asked Mom the same questions. "Our unique initiative was in Mex," she remarked. Williams arched an eyebrow at his notebook with both conflicting answers. Mom affirmed Mexel when asked again. "Definitely Mexico." He displayed Dad's remarks, turning her pale. She said they were correct immediately. The program was in both locations. Which facility to start was unclear. Williams kept writing, but his look showed he didn't trust her. He brought an evidence camera from his belt to me on the cart. He took many photos of my neck injection mark from different angles, flashing through my closed eyelids. He took photos of my sister's marks. Left in spoken code I didn't understand on his radio. 2 times I heard trafficking and suspected abuse. Hearing it made Mom cry immediately. These weren't sad or scared tears. She said they were ridiculous with a tight voice and anger. "We traveled as a family. Dare they suggest something so awful?" Though crying, her eyes were angry. A gray pantsuit-clad woman ran toward us across the terminal, a badge on her waist, a phone in her ear. She terminated her call and introduced herself to Williams as Natalie Harris from CPS. On call. She said she received our case notification and needed to urgently alert him. Iris's hospital report from 3 weeks earlier was open. The hospital planned to investigate Iris's chest injuries from binding materials, but our parents rushed her out before the social worker finished. Natalie said a worker was trying to arrange a house visit, but we were leaving the country. At the airport, William showed her our injection mark photos and parents' conflicting city names. Natalie looked at my dad, then Williams after viewing the photographs. Airline supervisors denied our boarding. Medical clearance from the airport medical staff and CPS was required before flight. Williams and Natalie encouraged our parents to follow them to the airport medical center. Dad immediately defended our rights, stating they couldn't take us. Williams kept walking and signaled paramedics to bring us as Mom screamed and said they were persecuted for their parenting. Parents had to keep up or fall behind. While halfway across the terminal, Dad grabbed Mom's arm and turned toward the parking garage. Williams was fast to impede their path. He stated that they would be imprisoned instantly if they left with us or interfered with the medical evaluation. Dad screamed about unjust detention and illegal captivity as he turned red. Williams was surrounded by 2 other officers. Dad ceased yelling and closed his mouth. Mom didn't leave but stopped sobbing. The airport clinic was small and bright, with white walls and chemical smells. A blue scrubs nurse greeted us at the door and told paramedics to move us into curtained areas. Olivia Bennett, in blue scrubs and a forensic nursing badge, entered. Her first step was closing my test curtain. Asking if I could hear her, she murmured her intention. First, she checked my vitals, then carefully lifted my shirt to examine my torso. Her hand halted when she saw my chest scars. Iris's binding materials had left long red marks on my skin. Mom had me match Olivia, who was silent but sad. To inspect my scalp, she gently parted my hair and lowered my shirt. She discovered rough, scarred skin and chemical burns from years of hair dyeing. She thoroughly photographed each injury with a medical camera. I heard her examine one of my sisters in the next curtain space. Through my curtain, Natalie Harris entered. She sat facing me in a chair near the exam table. She quietly announced emergency protective custody. This meant no journey home with our parents today. We'd be safe while the investigation proceeded. I shook with relief. My control slipped. Even though it was hot, I was shaking like I was freezing. Olivia gently draped a warm shawl over my shoulders. Mom spoke to Natalie warmly and worriedly under the veil. She recounted how she sacrificed everything to help us succeed. Natalie spoke calmly and professionally. She said medical proof sufficed. Injection marks, binding scars, chemical burns. Custody was non-negotiable. Natalie's tone didn't change as Mom's voice grew urgent. 2 nurses in wheelchairs prepped us for comprehensive checks at the main hospital. We were wheeled out one by one. I was hospitalized alone. For the first time since age 7, I was alone without my sisters after the door closed. The space felt huge, empty, and wrong. I heard a loud stillness. I almost yelled their names to prove their proximity. I recognized that our arrangement and loneliness could save us. I stayed quiet and cleared my surroundings. A soft tap woke me, and Olivia entered with a big black camera and flash. She requested photos of my injuries for court. I agreed. Proof was my only weapon. She tenderly separated my hair to photograph the rough spots where years of chemical dye had burned and deformed my scalp. She carefully documented each damaged spot, with the same attention as the original checkup. The camera flashed. She asked me to lift my top and photograph the red marks across my ribs where the binding materials had ripped my skin raw. Even though I didn't require binding, each flash felt like freezing the evidence, making it permanent, which scared and moved me. Olivia then photographed my arms, revealing Dad's carry to the van bruises and my neck's purple injection site. After finishing, she silently thanked me and said, "These images will protect us." Natalie arrived shortly after Olivia left, moved the chair closer to my bed, and asked if I was ready to talk. My medication blurred and hindered my words as I recounted the surgical plans and the Mexican doctor. I tried to explain the rib removal and vocal cord changes, but my sentences broke. Natalie gently stroked my hand and suggested we talk once the medications wore off. Though I couldn't speak, she sat there as I battled the fog. Mom outside my door demanded to see me, claimed she had a right to interviews. Dad's gruff voice joined hers. My chest clenched with ancient fear. I heard a calm masculine voice say, "Only authorized workers may enter patient rooms," so hospital security barred the door. Dad yelled about parental rights and illegal detention. His voice reached that terrifying peak that used to chill us. The security man's steady voice convinced me he wasn't afraid of Dad. Natalie stared at the door, then at me, wondering if the guard calmed me. Dad's wrath through the door made me want to hide under the bed, but I nodded. 20 minutes later, Officer Williams entered my doorway and nodded to the security guard before talking to Natalie. He said he had warrants to search our house for bedroom door locks, surveillance cameras, and other evidence of our parents' plans. Our injection mark photographs and Mexico information convinced the court in just an hour. When Natalie asked about the timing, Williams stated his team was executing the search warrant and acquiring cameras, locks, and Mom's measurement logs. Knowing others were searching our house and documenting our parents' control made me feel both guilty and relieved. A nurse ran by my door, shouting a psychiatric emergency code. Knowing the code was for Iris's room, and that she'd tried to die before, my heart stopped. We were apart. She was alone with her horror. Natalie softly patted my shoulder and told me to be still because Iris had a skilled team. I shook all over when I lay down, worried Iris had fled again. None caught it in time this time. Natalie left to investigate, leaving me with people running down the corridor and my monitors ringing. Olivia returned 30 minutes later, pale and anxious, sitting heavily in my bedside chair. She carefully detailed the Mexican doctor's procedures for us in medical textbook terminology. Reduce our cheekbones. Remove ribs to fit torso. Voice cord modification alters pitch and tone to sound alike. She listed medical names and risks for each surgery. Hearing it described as a surgery plan made me queasy. Olivia said Iris was stable since it was a panic attack, but they were transporting her to a safer institution for monitoring. Natalie sat down and showed me Mom's emails with the Mexican clinic. Her digital forensics team seized our parents' phones with a warrant. The emails included Mom's handwritten notes on which qualities needed to be modified for perfect matching, and detailed measurements of our faces and bodies. My nose width, ear angle and jaw form needed adjustment. We received photos of our faces from different angles with lines showing where the doctor would cut. I told Natalie the clinic name. Mom organized the vacation and I noticed it on home paperwork. Her international medical licenses and cross-border patient safety calls were urgent. Her voice was urgent and professional. She held my hand and said I protected other youngsters who might have been sent there. Flag and investigate the clinic. It seemed heavy to know other families would try what our parents did. Natalie informed that Hannah Ainsworth, our guardian ad litem, will represent us at a temporary custody court this afternoon. Natalie said a guardian ad litem's sole purpose was to tell the judge of our needs. She said Hannah would likely consult me before the hearing. I was bewildered by new people, procedures, and legal lingo, but at least they asked what we needed instead of deciding like our parents. I lay there analyzing everything, until the ceiling air vent made a faint sound, a mimic whisper. Focusing on my breath, I heard it again. Harlow's injured but familiar voice, whispering my name through the ventilation. We spoke through the vents to hear each other. We tapped basic patterns on the wall between our rooms instead of chatting. 2 taps for, I'm scared. 3 for, I'm here. 4, I love you. Tap back and forth. This simple communication seemed like a connection even though we were in different rooms for the first time in 12 years. Our nurse knocked and brought a plastic bag with my name. After Dad was separated from us at the airport, she gave me my phone, saying they took it from his luggage. I saw 17 missed calls from Mom and 3 voicemails when I turned it on. Dad's phone sent recently. I pushed play and heard his angry voice, accusing me of being ungrateful and dividing the family, as they tried to make us special. We could have been great together, he thought. I spent it by generating airport trouble. A hot biting fist of guilt made me sick. However, I touched the injection mark on my neck, still unpleasant and slightly swollen, and considered rib removal and voice cord alteration surgery. The cold reality accentuated the guilt. No effort was made to distinguish us. They attempted to make us alike, but they're different. Natalie returned hours later with a spiral notepad and pen. She sat next to my bed and urged me to write down what happened in my own words, for my own record, that no one else could see unless I wanted them to. She said it might help me remember and process. My journaling began the morning they told us about Mexico. I kept writing we and us like one person instead of 4. We feared going didn't suit us. Hiding, looking over the words. I wasn't sure where I ended and my sister started. Natalie noticed my stare and asked what was wrong. I gave her the page, and she nodded slowly and suggested I add my name. I initially felt awkward claiming experiences as my own. Forced myself. I feared refused departure. Hiding. The first time I read my experience separately, it clenched but lightened my chest. Natalie returned that evening concerned with her phone. She handed me a local news website with a brief airport kid endangerment report. Despite our anonymity, the news indicated that 4 children were taken into protective custody after suspicious circumstances at the international terminal. We might be discovered and I was afraid. The neighbors knew we were traveling. Our old schoolmates may remember us. What if others told the story and related it to our family? Natalie likely sensed my concern, since she sat down and explained that juvenile cases are sealed by law. No news outlet can identify us. She continuously assured me of our safety. I couldn't shake my worry. Natalie talked to people about foster placements through the door for hours while on the phone. 4 teenage girls are too much for most houses. Some held 2, others 3. No one could fit 4 of us. I hated thinking of being apart after everything. We had to match for 12 years. We may truly split now that we've been apart. Independence without losing sisters was my goal. Natalie came to my room later and said she was still looking for a placement to keep us together, but she looked discouraged. Williams and his staff executed our house search warrant the next morning. Natalie showed me photos. As they photographed each room, they emailed her. Our bedroom doors had outside-only locks, so we couldn't leave at night. Every room, even the bathroom, had cameras streaming to monitors in our parents' bedroom to monitor us 24/7. Years ago, Mom's meticulous files chronicled our millimeter-measured hair, and who required cutting. Ace bandages she tied to Iris's chest and padded bras she made us wear were recovered. To help the Mexican doctor arrange surgery, my mom sent him a notebook with our regular school class times. Williams and his colleagues photographed and bagged evidence. Natalie claimed their findings showed it wasn't tight parenting, which assisted the case. Control was deliberate. As Williams investigated the house, other investigators interviewed our neighbors door to door. Natalie read me their statements from copies. Our neighbors reported, "We were always together outside." One neighbor said, "We always dressed and marched like soldiers." Another claimed, "We never played with neighbors." I was angry when the woman 3 doors down shouted it. She told the investigator she appreciated our synchronized swimming team-like coordination. "Cute," made me shout. No one questioned cute's control. Nobody wondered if 4 teenage girls moving in unison was a problem. They proceeded their day thinking it was cute and different. I met Hannah Ainsworth that afternoon. She was likely in her 50s, with pushed-back gray hair and direct eyes that wanted to hear me. As my guardian ad litem, she said she would decide what was best for me and my sisters and notify the judge. She dragged a chair to my bed and requested again. She asked me what I wanted, not what I thought I should say or appease grown-ups. After considerable thought, I replied. I asked her to protect me and my sisters. Stopping my parents was more crucial than punishing them. I wanted them to recognize their mistake, but how? Hannah filmed my speech without judging or swaying me. She acknowledged my contradictory feelings and said wanting safety without revenge was appropriate. A small conference-style courtroom hosted the midday emergency custody hearing. Judge, lawyers, Natalie, Hannah, and my parents with their attorneys. Temporary custody didn't require me. I could play Natalie's phone recording. CPS was after my parents for homeschooling and conservative ideals, so my lawyer spent most of his time explaining that he ignored my parents' abuse and talked about religious freedom and parental rights. He said the airport incident was a misunderstanding. We took medication voluntarily, and my parents monitored us. He said the scheduled operations in Mexico were cosmetic options like braces or acne treatment that many families chose. I felt strange listening to him distort things, like he was conveying another reality. The judge let the lawyer finish before assessing the evidence. He viewed photos of our binding scars, chemical burns, and injection marks. He described rib removal and voice cord manipulation in surgery communications. Olivia testified about the medical risks we faced, and how some planned operations may have caused irreversible harm or death. His final words were loud and direct. He removed us from our parents, limited their visits to certified facilities, and scheduled a 4-week hearing. In my hospital bed, the recording helped me breathe. Despite my parents drugging us and trying to physically modify our bodies without our consent, I felt guilty for being relieved and a poor daughter. Natalie arrived in my room, fatigued but determined after the hearing. Sitting down, she described placement honestly. 3 of us were fostered, not 4. She asked if one of us would go to a different foster family so the other 3 could be together, which was best. I volunteered fast. Unplanned words. I was oldest. This happened when I was discovered faking sleep instead of staying unconscious like my sisters. Should sacrifice. Natalie looked at me before asking whether I was sure or just instinctive. I said I was sure even though I wasn't because I had to choose. That night, Natalie took me to a foster home 25 minutes away, in a beautiful neighborhood with unusual homes. A 60s couple greeted me, but I'm too sleepy to recall their names. They showed me to a modest second-floor bedroom with pastel blue walls and a garden window. She opened the wardrobe and gave me 3 jammies for tonight. I lingered over them since I've never chosen. Last, the central one with little flowers. I notice the door lock only works from inside when she grins and leaves me to change. No one can confine me. The house is quiet when I sit on the bed after changing. The downstairs clock ticks without my sisters breathing close. Silence feels huge and odd, like something vital is missing. I feel lighter and can breathe deeper without matching them. First time in years. I lie down, pull up the blanket, and fall asleep without hearing Mom's corridor footsteps or checking for my sisters. Natalie takes me to my first downtown Thomas Donovan therapy appointment the next morning. He's about 40, speaks calmly, and doesn't shake my hand when I arrive. Instead, he sits across from me in a comfortable chair. He says, "We'll set small, manageable goals. Getting through the day and finding myself." He doesn't promise healing or improvement, just says, "We'll survive." That sounds more genuine than phony hope. So I nod. I tell him my feelings are unknown. Too much mess to clean. "We'll work on it," he agrees. Recognizing feelings. Later in the session, Natalie joins us to discuss school reentry options, including if I should homeschool, return to traditional school, or take online courses. My dream was to play soccer, but Iris hated sports and we all had to. Thomas writes this in his notepad and says, "We can look at it, but court dates and foster care changes are unstable." Though grieved, I like his argument. The chaos is too vast to add. Hannah comes to the foster home a few days later and asks me to keep a diary of my memories, not my sister's. She wants me to record our identity concealing. Record my private times. That night, I sit with a blank notepad and try to recall my memories, but my sisters had us do everything together, so everything is garbled. When was the last time I pondered or did something alone? This is recorded and shown to Hannah when she visits. She says, "Struggle indicates parents hurt us. They damaged our identity so much that I can't remember." Natalie calls a week after I start the journal with Mexican clinic news. She claims the clinic closed or moved and the unlicensed doctor stopped operating. When she says this, my stomach twists because it implies he's still hurting other kids, even if it's not my fault. Later, Bridget tells me I'm 17 and can't stop international medical criminals, but guilt stays because we missed him. More girls may end up on that operating table. I get a message request from an unusual account while browsing social media on my phone, a week after custody court. Blank profile image, random username. I read, "We can still fix you. We can still make you perfect. We love you." My hand shakes so violently I almost drop the phone, so I know it's from my parents violating the no contact order. I capture and send Natalie the message immediately as instructed. I delete the message request. After disabling the account, Natalie tells me she's sending it to Williams and the prosecutor within an hour. Natalie calls again 3 days later to report Williams found Dad's work computer's fake social media account using the IP address. He sued for contempt because my parents disobeyed the no contact rule. Natalie adds, "This proves I was right to report it and that consequences are happening," which helps calm the panic that flared up when I first saw their message. The next week, I had my first supervised contact with my sisters at a neutral visitation center with meeting rooms and cameras. When we're together, we quarrel over blame and what could have been done better. Iris says, "I should have kept silent so we could be together," but I say, "We're drugged and heading to surgery." Harlow screams for normality. Beatrix shouts, "No, no return." Our supervisor sits quietly and lets us work through it. Finally, we cry, hug, and admit we're scared and mourning but safer. Long-term attachment. I realize this is our first interaction in weeks. We made our first close call without matching. Several days later, Natalie takes Beatrix to an orthopedic doctor for back examinations and x-rays. The doctor believes forced slouching damaged her spine and required physical rehabilitation and possibly lifelong pain. Beatrix sits in the car, depressed and angry. I'm not sure how to explain that some of our parents' behaviors are irreparable. I can't explain why they did this to her and why she couldn't be tall. Next week, Harlow sees an ENT for throat and voice tests. He believes she'll require months of vocal rest and therapy for vocal nodules from forced voice training, and her voice may never be the same. Harlow sobs in the exam room because she was a superb violinist and vocalist, and her voice may be destroyed. I hold her hand while she grieves, thinking about how her parents stole so much we'll never get back. Natalie calls 2 days after Harlow's ENT consultation to tell Iris has another foster home issue and is being admitted to a mental health program. Natalie says I can write but not visit her yet. I write Iris daily about weather, breakfast, and TV. I tell her about the foster family's cat on my lap when I do homework and the neighbor's dog barking at squirrels every morning. I write about simple things to show her a normal world awaits her when she returns. Never discuss mom or dad, procedures, or anything terrible. I tell her commonplace things that indicate life is secure and simple. A week later, Natalie visits my foster home and sits at the kitchen table with me to explain that the prosecutor has charged mom and dad with child neglect and endangerment. So she shows me a document with official legal jargon claiming the judicial process will take months or years. I'm relieved something's happening, fatigued because it's not over, and guilty because they're still my parents despite damaging us. Natalie wants to see my face, so I inform Thomas. Thomas says, that's normal. When I tell him about the charges and how I feel relieved, exhausted, and guilty during my next therapy appointment. Mixed thoughts about nasty people don't make you weak or confused, he argues. The topic is hard and you're human. That helps, but guilt still weighs me down. Hannah visits the foster home the following week and advises me to prepare for the extended custody court when I may testify. She asks sample questions like, why didn't you tell anyone sooner? Why didn't you just run away? I attempt to answer calmly, but they sound like she's blaming me. So I get furious. My voice rises as I tell her I was scared and controlled. Wanted to flee and they locked us in. Hannah nods and says, good. That anger is good. I need to be able to access it to protect myself on the stand. She thinks my parents' lawyer will try to make me doubt myself and get confused. So I need to practice staying calm even when upset, repeating practice questions till I can answer them without shaking my voice. A few days later, Natalie emails me my parents' attorney's court filing. Reading that on my bed makes me mad. Homeschooling and religious freedom protect their parenting choices, says their lawyer. He wants us to view their actions as family, spiritual, and educational decisions. The motion seems to justify chest binding and forced sedation for parental authority, traditional values, and family autonomy. I've read it 3 times, and each time I feel further from reality since it describes a different cosmos. Like they twisted all the facts into nonsense. I show the document to my foster mom and ask if I'm crazy or remembering wrong. She hugs me and says, no, I'm not crazy. Powerful people spin horrific things. My room sorts donation bag shirts and jeans on weekends. At the bottom of the packet, an outdated photo was mistakenly mixed in. My hands shake when I pull it out since it's from before the matching when I was 5 or 6. The photo shows 4 little girls as separate people. Curly, straight, taller, shorter. They're dressed and smiling differently. I look at my younger self in the photo and try to remember who she was, what she loved, and what distinguished her unique from her sisters. Yearly repetition has damaged memories, making them hard to find. The photo hurts to look at, so I store it in my nightstand drawer. 4 weeks later, the extended custody hearing begins on a cold February morning. Hannah wakes me up and drives me to court. She encourages me to talk carefully and look at the judge, not my parents. The courtroom is smaller than imagined, due to wood paneling and soft fluorescent lights. My mother cries when I enter, while my parents sit with their lawyer at a table. I concentrate on the judge's desk. I promise to tell the truth with my hand on the Bible when the bailiff calls me to testify. My voice shakes, but Hannah was correct. Practice stabilizes. I tell the judge about the surveillance cameras in every room, including the bathroom, the chest binding that knocked out Iris, and the forced sedation the night before the airport. I talk about the surgery Mexican clinic and $25,000 my parents paid up front, looking at the judge instead. When my throat tightens, my parents help me talk. My parents' lawyer cross-examines me after testifying. An older man in a gray suit grins at me politely, but cruelly. He says, I terrified my sisters or planned the surgery to get attention because I was jealous of their closeness. It sounds like he's asking legitimate questions. When I get angry, I recall Hannah's advice. I face him and explain. I tell him Tijuana's clinic was unlicensed. I tell him $25,000 was wired on a specific date. I explain bone shaving, rib removal, and voice cord change. He changes expression when he discovers I have more details than expected. He asks additional questions but I answer with facts and dates and he sits. Olivia Bennett testifies as an expert. After a break, she reports medical data with a clinical tone and professional attire. Iris's chest-binding injuries, hair color, chemical burns on all our scalps, and forced sedative injection markings on our necks are described. She outlines our significant health issues in medical language and shows photos. Her scientific evidence makes tight parenting and cultural differences harder to blame. No drama or emotion for her. She delivers evidence like a doctor. Williams follows with a chronological airport intervention testimony. His concerns include the airline agent's suspicions, injection marks, and us being unconscious on the luggage cart. He discovered locks, cameras, and logs throughout our home. The evidence relates everything he shows. His evidence shows how many systems missed this earlier. How many people saw us but didn't inquire why 4 teenage girls looked alike. He recounts how close we were to traveling to Mexico, and what would have happened if the airline agent hadn't noticed. The judge briefly evaluates evidence after testimony. My parents are talking to their lawyer through the hallway door as we wait. High-pitched anger from Mom. After returning inside, the judge appears fatigued. He briefly reviews his evidence, legal and duty notes. Choice announced. This ruling extends our parental custody removal by a year. He wants parental psychiatric tests before reassessing custody. He restricts them to approved facilities with trained monitors for monitored contact. I almost cried from relief. Though relieved, I feel peculiar anguish because they hurt us, but they're my parents. Part of me wanted them to fight for us differently, own faults and change, but they sit angry and betrayed like we hurt them. Natalie smiles across the room as Hannah squeezes my shoulder. The judge strikes his gavel and says, "Court is adjourned." My hands shake when Natalie calls 3 weeks later with news. Her foster family took 4 of us. That 50s couple has enough beds for everyone and fostered siblings. On Saturday mornings, the foster mom escorts us to our rooms, which feels strange and improper. But then I hear Iris's voice through the wall, Harlow's footsteps upstairs, and Beatrice humming in the toilet, and everything settles down. We sleep on the living room floor that night since moving about is too quick. Foster parents don't lock us up. They bring additional blankets and say, "We'll figure it out at our own pace." Thomas visits the house twice a week for boundary practice group sessions. Before pausing, we all take the same box of crackers from the pantry. Thomas has us choose something else, and I spend 10 minutes deciding between chips and cookies because I keep looking at my sister's choices. We vary TV programming, table chairs, and shower times. Choosing differently from them tightens my chest, which sounds ridiculous. Harlow selects grape juice, I orange, Iris water, and Beatrice lemonade. We look at our beverages like we've done something dangerous. Our foster dad called it the boldest thing in years. I attend Tuesday and Thursday soccer clinics in our neighborhood park. First night, I wear borrowed cleats that don't fit and my own shorts that don't match. I tumble over and kick the ball wrong in coach-led drills. My chest knots when I race down the field, pursuing it with no one matching my pace. Slowness, clumsiness, and burning lungs are mine. I alone learned this horrible thing. After practice, I text my sisters about my awful performance. Getting laughing emojis back is great too. Being able to fail without hurting others. First time in months, Harlow brings her violin to the visiting center's Wednesday afternoon music. Her hands shake when she draws the bow, and her first notes are off-key. She plays a basic melody because her hoarse voice inhibits singing. After finishing, the supervisor claps and says it's therapeutic. Not great, but improving. Harlow's eyes swell, but she smiles unlike in years. Next week, we have our first monitored visit with our parents in a small room with cameras and a corner monitor. Mom cries after seeing us, and Dad's voice breaks when he shouts our names. They want pardon and wish to love and appreciate us. I refuse Mom's hand since Thomas taught us boundaries. We can't talk about forgiveness until they take responsibility. The surgeries would have permanently ruined us, says Iris. Her spine hurts every morning, says Beatrice. Harlow rubs her throat where she spoke loudly. The look on our parents' faces implies they didn't expect us to speak. Our time is up. The monitor interrupts Dad's argument. I feel guilty, relieved, and sad leaving. Natalie calls about the Mexican clinic 3 days later. A probe is ongoing after authorities submitted the information in a federal database, perhaps safeguarding other families from what almost happened to us. I let go my worries about other girls being operated on and sisters being separated to match. It doesn't fix what happened, but it suggests we could have stopped it. 5 months after the airport intervention, we eat tacos we made separately at the foster family's dinner table. Beatrice explores extreme haircuts, possibly side buzzes. Harlow wants hers past her shoulders for the first time since childhood. Iris wants to try crimson or purple, something different from us. We joke because we're consciously choosing different looks to recover our faces. On Saturday, the foster mom takes us to the salon where we spend an hour browsing her phone for haircuts and choosing our own. On cold November mornings, final custody hearings are placed. Natalie, Thomas, and our doctors present the judge updated reports after reviewing all the evidence. He grants the state permanent foster family guardianship. We must have individual education plans, medical treatment, and rehabilitation. He forbids our parents from altering our bodies or making medical judgments. There's no happy ending with everything fixed. Safety with legal protection trumps perfection. 6 months after everything happened, I buy pads alone at the drugstore. I don't steal or buy them for others. As usual, the cashier rings them up. I text my sisters a ridiculous period cramp meme on my way home, and they react differently. That afternoon in Thomas's office, I admit the road ahead is long and hard. He hears my airport van waking up dreams. I sometimes pick what my sisters do without thinking. I will never force us into identical bodies again. For distinct people are coming to love each other. It's harder, better, and more real. This journey, this fight for my own self, taught me the true meaning of individuality and the terrifying cost of enforced sameness. I'm still learning who I am, separate from my sisters, but for the first time it's my journey. Have you ever felt like you had to sacrifice a part of yourself to fit in, especially with family? Or struggled to find your own identity when others expected you to be someone else? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm reading every single one.